Hello, everyone. Today I'll be debating the resolution honesty is more important than kindness. A few definitions: honesty is being truthful or the quality of fact. Important means having great value. Kindness is to be friendly, generous, and considerate. This debate will be weighed with the mechanism of social values. The dispute is not that honesty isn't important at all to a society. The affirmative side will have to prove that honesty is more important than kindness as a social value. As the negation, I will argue that kindness has more societal impact than honesty. This is a value resolution. Despite the saying, honesty is not always the best policy, but kindness is. To quote Theodore Isaac Rubin, kindness is more important than wisdom, and the recognition of this is the beginning of wisdom. Honesty does have value in the world, but without kindness, it can be ill received and ill effective. Not only is being kind proven to improve mental health and feelings of well being too honest actually runs the risk of damaging personal and professional relationships. My first contention is kindness is a crucial component to honesty. In order to be honest in a way that gets your message across without causing defensiveness and conflict from the recipient, it's important to infuse that honesty with kindness. The way you deliver a message often has more impact than the content of the message itself. Blunt, brutal, or excessive honesty that is not tempered with kindness falls on deaf ears and could potentially have negative consequences. This makes kindness an important, if not more important than honesty. People are complex and emotional beings. Communication requires two parties willing to give and receive information. Being honest to a fault sounds like a wholesome thing, but it is in fact a fault. Telling someone everything you think or feel is a fast way to isolate yourself from relationships. In the end, you are isolated and they are no better enlightened from your words. Honesty without kindness can come across as selfish and inconsiderate. This quote from an article by Deception and Truth Analysis sums it up perfectly. If there is not a perceived equilibrium among people, then a person's honesty is likely to be interpreted by others as unequal, that is selfish and or judgmental, and thus the honesty is likely rejected. Thus, delivering honesty without compassion is a self-defeating activity. An article on LinkedIn gives a great example of how to broach honesty. Imagine you tell your partner, "You're irresponsible." These words may come off as baseless or even cruel, even though you feel you're expressing an honest feeling. By reframing that sentiment with kindness, explaining something tangible, such as, "I know you are very busy, but when you forget to take care of XYZ, it makes me feel anxious and deprioritized." The statement is still honest, but it isn't accusatory or incendiary. Thus, it has a better chance of being well received. Honesty in the workplace can hurt your career or degrade employee motivation. Toxic leaders that use honesty as a mask to be cruel or demanding of their employees run the risk of losing talent or causing burnout among their teams. Honest feedback is important, but benevolent honesty is more effective than radical honesty. Thus, honesty is not more important than kindness, but reliant on it. A study published by the American Psychological Association posits that honesty can often be selective or enable selfishness. People are more likely to be honest when it benefits them in some way and withhold information when it does not. People are also more likely to use the guise of honesty as a reason to avoid accountability for the impact of their words hurting others. The impacts of being honest without being kind can be far reaching. You could lose relationships, suffer in your career, or become a more self serving person. Being brutally honest without lending empathy, compassion, or consideration or considering other perspectives can actually cause you to be less honest with yourself. By believing that your honesty is always the most important, you can fail to see the problem with hurting others. If this was adopted by society as a whole, the long term effects would be a society that values cruelty over compassion and kindness. A second contention is kindness does more for well being than honesty. Being a part of society means adhering to collective values that help form the kind of society you want to live in. Studies show that kindness is vastly important to the mental health of others as well as to yourself. By practicing kindness, one might have a more profound effect on an individual's behavior than honesty would. Honesty is grounded in opinions, and truths evolve over time. But being kind can have long lasting effects on the behaviors of others and yourself. People remember kindness and become more kind to others as an extension of having received it. Mentalhealth.org cites that kindness reduces stress and may even help us live longer. There is evidence that suggests that being kind promotes changes in the brain that are associated with happiness. Being kind to yourself can also lead to improving your neural pathways. Negative self-talk or intrusive thoughts are somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy. In the sense that perception is reality, kindness to yourselves and others is integral to a healthy, happy society. Practicing kindness has sort of a chain reaction effect. Think of the pay it forward lines in drive-thrus, where a patron pays for the car behind them, and so on and so on. It is a small act that brightens someone's day, but inspires them to do good for others. Honesty does not have this same effect. The affirmative side made the point that not being honest can have dire consequences, but being unkind does not. And while it may be true that deception can get you in trouble, that is only if you get caught. Whereas not being kind is blatantly obvious and can have immediate consequences, such as losing relationships, being overlooked professionally, or never even getting your ideas off the ground. Harvard Business Review published an article titled, "Why Be Honest If Honesty Doesn't Pay?" Essentially, their findings were that companies that engage in deception and get caught suffer very little for their lack of honesty, whereas enterprises that are successful in their deception stand to gain a lot more. Convincing others that you are profitable or desirable can allow those two things to come to fruition, but it starts from a lack of honesty and transparency. Thank you.